Right, good day, everybody. Welcome once again to another discussion of our second topic, which will be talking about art materials and processes. So, for this particular discussion, we are going to be going now deeper into what is the medium used in presenting art. So, they are varied and various. So, I would like you to take down notes and to record or to take down the most salient gists and points that we are going to be discussing. All right. So as we continue, again, I would like to also give everybody the same heads up or precautionary announcement that I am announcing or I'm using recording this lecture video in a particular area where you might hear background noises. So if you do, please disregard them, and I hope you can stay focused on the sound of my voice. So we begin our discussion by talking about what is medium. The word medium is a Latin word that denotes by which an artist communicates his idea. Take note, it means communicating his or her idea. The medium may be in the form of materials used by an artist to interpret his feelings or thoughts rather. Hence, it can be 2D or 3D. What are examples of these? Number one, we have watercolor, fresco, tempera, pastel, encaustic, oil, and acrylic. So these are considered as painting mediums. Now, let's discuss them one by one. Watercolor employs pigments suspended in gum arabic, a natural glue thinned by water. Hence, watercolor pigments invites brilliance and variety of hues or color hues. The effects are rendered through some techniques. However, it can be applied on wet plaster, canvas, wood, and paper. The challenge in using watercolors is the difficulty in handling and showcasing warm and rich tones. So sa inyo makita, since watercolor is sabi nga gum arabic or is a form of gum arabic which is a natural glue thinned by water, it now shows variety of brilliant color hues. So maglisod ta karon og handle in showcasing warm and rich tones of color. Pero nakanindot sa iya, you can apply it on wet plaster, canvas, wood, and paper. So watercolor is very, very much also hugely used or utilized variety of painting medium. Say for example here, this is an example of the Jedburgh Abbey from the River of Thomas Gurlitt. This is watercolor. If you can see, it has a huge array of variety of colors. Very brilliant and radiant. Pero pag tanaw mo sa ubos, medyo maglisod na silang depict kasi nga it is having difficulty in handling, showcasing warm and rich tones. So if dili jud ka skilled nga painter, ultimately dili ka na ni kanindot pag-depict nimo kung sa makita nimo diri sa painting. But if you can see, this is talking or this is presenting clearly and vividly the subject as it is. Now, another painting medium is fresco. Fresco is painting on a plaster. This is popular during the prehistoric times to the Renaissance. Water is used as the vehicle for the dry powder pigment to merge with the plaster. And with the setting of the plaster, the painting becomes an integral part of the wall. So prehistoric to Renaissance, mas daghan man tao ginagamit ng wall. Gina-paint nato in the wall or gina-paint nato in some canvases that use of fresco as a painting medium is more effective. Since, therefore, painting method done on a moist plaster surface with colors ground in water or a lime water mixture is what fresco is all about. Hence, image becomes permanently fixed and impossible to remove. Mabitaw na nga natin mga historical pictures on walls, ceilings, etc., of historical landmarks. Kasi nga, when we use this painting method on moist plaster surfaces, now with colors that are grounded with water or lime water mixture, lisod na siya, tanggalon. Muna it is retained and it stays there for long periods of time, even years and hundreds of years. The challenge in using fresco is that it must be done quickly because the moment the paint is applied to the surface, the color dry into plaster and the painting becomes an integral part of the wall. So kung di mahuman ang imong painting, agoy, mao na gyud tay dagway niya. So kailangan kung sa imong i-paint, paspas yung ka maka-paint niya na. See, for example, The Last Supper of Leonardo da Vinci. I cannot see any more recognizable photo or art piece than The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. Okay? Another is The Creation of Man, same by Leonardo da Vinci. This was painted on the wall of, I believe, a basilica. Ug imong tan-awon, very natural sa layo. But if you can observe, no, the cracks of the wall, this is not part of the painting. This is due because over time, nag-crack na yun ang iyahang canvas or surface. Pero nakita nimo na-retain ang color. Kasi nga, fresco is used to a moist, no? A moist surface. Hence, pag lisod na tanggal or lisod na tanggalon ang maong pintura. Say for example, you can see that despite the cracks, no, of the surface, naagyapon very realistic yapon kayo tanawan ng pintura because it is mostly made of katong material sa fresco, which is a dry powder pigment submerged in plaster and then applied on a moist surface. Okay, so here is also another example of fresco, the School of Athens by Raphael. So kita nimo inani di eskwelahan sa Athens sa una, sir. Mura na magpalingki sa chill kayo siya nagbasa-basa sa iyang concert. But if you're going to look into it, this is basically how Athens depicted their schools kanento. Their scholars, may nagsuwat sa libro, gatundo sila, different methods, different techniques. If you're going to look further, diba? The color here used is retained until now, and it is depicting clearly the details of the faces, you know, the textures, the subject is clearly emphasized. Ganha. So this is an example of fresco. Another example of painting medium is tempera. Tempera are ground pigments that are mixed with a vehicle of egg yolk and thinned with water. This is mostly used in the Middle Ages. Mineral pigments mixed with egg yolk or egg white and ore. This egg-based emulsion binds the pigments to the surface. Hence, this is characterized by its film-forming properties and rapid drying rate. So, drying rate niini is more quicker or faster than the others. And makita nimo na the quality, no, is more like film-forming properties. Para siyang picture ba? Kasi nga, you're using all of these pigments of mineral pigments mixed in egg yolk or egg white or the ore, no? This requires more deliberate technique than oil because it does not possesses the flexibility of oil. Therefore, this is the favorite medium of painters during Middle Ages and early Renaissance period before oil was adopted. So, mas una ni siya ang tempera kaysa sa previously discussed na to na fresco and watercolor where it is oil-based. Tempera is not oil-based. Mao na siya nga mas delicate siya kung imuha na siyang himuon. The challenge here is that the artist must be precise and exact in his or her work. Kung sa duha fresco and watercolor maugas siya, di na nimo mausab ma-alter. Or kung ma-alter ba nimo, it would definitely impact. Sa tempera class, kailangan exact and precise ka sa imuhang artwork. Kasi nga, you cannot simply change it anytime you want or alter it anytime you want. It would require you, again, a different and a very, very drastic amount of resources to do it again. Dili pwede nga usbon lang nimo. So, they really were skillful during those times in making sure, no, that their artworks were presented accordingly to what they wanted to be depicted. Another. Okay, so this is an example of tempera, The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli. Another is pastel. Okay, pastel is a stick of dried paste of pigment that is grounded with chalk and compounded with gum water. Therefore, it is a very flexible medium whose colors are luminous. The challenge in using pastel is that in spite of richness and varied effects of pastel, it is difficult to preserve the finished product in its original state. Therefore, when the chalk rubs off, the image loses some of its brilliance. Say for example, yan na siya. So, lisod siya i-preserve compared sa tempera. Okay, I will be sending a separate lecture video to continue our discussion since that there is a need for me to stop recording this lecture video already. So I will be continuing our discussion with this particular lesson for another lecture video. Thank you very much and stay tuned for the next or for the continuation of our discussion.